What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. In this review, we're going to be talking about episodes 5 and 6 of season 6. Okay, y'all know I was on vacation, and this is the last video I have to do a double episode review in. Thank God, because girl, I'm tired. Okay? But three things before we get into the video. Number one, this is definitely giving a Lisa Barlow takedown season. More so reminiscent to what they did to Meredith on season 2 when everyone was trying to implicate her as the person calling the feds on Jen Shah. But it's giving that with Miss Lisa Barlow. Number two, Heather is not to be trusted, and I've been peeping that since season 4, okay? Because the switch up she did on Lisa, I said, ooh, girl, nasty work. But I sees you, okay? And number 3, Bronwyn is being very... Sis is not being honest about these charges, okay? And I don't think she's going to be honest about them, okay? Because, girl, if the case is sealed, why are we not going on the cash trip? It's given you did what them people said you did, okay? But let's get into this review, all right? So y'all know sometimes before we get in to the review, we get a little spicy just a little bit. And I just got 2 things to talk about with y'all. Really just, kind of like a description / announcement. So number 1, when I got back on my vacation, I did a Spicy Corner Central video where I talked about all of the shows that I reviewed that normally have a spicy corner in one video. Meaning I talked about Real Housewives of Orange County, Miami, Salt Lake City, and Potomac. And y'all know I try my best to timestamp all my videos. So there is in the pinned comment a timestamp of Salt Lake City. And in that video, I talked about the US Weekly spread that was done on the women, the photo shoot, which I thought was actually really cute, as well as the interviews that they did in that sit down, in the spread and things of that nature, okay? And then the second thing is I just posted a standalone Spicy Corner video of Salt Lake City where I talked about tweets from Lisa Barlow, a documentary series that Heather is about to be headlining, Meredith being on Watch What Happens Live after episode 6, as well as a really juicy fan theory about Bronwyn and her charges, where a person by the name of the Bravo Derm put together like a long thread on Twitter with a lot of circumstantial evidence to back up what they were saying. So it's all alleged, but if you're interested in the thread and my thoughts about it and all the other stuff that I described, please be on the, not be on the lookout. Please go to the link in the description box below, and both links for both videos will be there, okay? But let's get into this review. All right, y'all, so let's get into episode 5. So it opens up and we're at Whitney and Justin's house. Whitney is making this really pretty like floral bouquet, and she decides that she is going to be inviting the women to this wine tasting in this beautiful, like on the countryside or in the mountains somewhere in Utah. She said, the last time they were together, everything went left. Pretty much talking about Lisa's event, and she not wrong. Everything did go left, and it was not a good event, okay? And so she's like, I want all of us to be in each other's presence and have a good time, drink, and be merry. So she's just like, I'm doing it. So then we actually see the bouquets that she was making get gifted to Heather, Angie, and Bronwyn. Mind you, Whitney's signature is horrible because none of them could like read it. And I can read cursive, but that looked like scribble scrabble to me. And I'm like, Whitney, there was no W. Like, that's not how you do a cursive W, okay? So I was just like, yeah, girl, we got to work on that. Because nobody could read it. And I know production told Angie it was from Whitney. Side note, why were they having Whitney sing in the confessional? And mind you, she didn't sound horrible, but it's just kind of like there was no segue into this like Farmer Brown song, because that was the cadence of the song. Like E-I-E-I-O. On this farm he had, that's what it sounded like when Whitney was singing it. And I was like, why is she singing this? I'm confused, okay? So, we actually see Whitney at the winery. They're setting up, they have a bunch of like peacocks walking around. They're really pretty, by the way. I think I saw an albino one, like an all white peacock. Maybe that's one, but I did see like a regular looking peacock. Either way, the birds were pretty. So we see Heather get there first, then Mary gets there second. Mary is talking about she don't understand why they having this event here because it's bad juju. And Mary is probably right because the way that Angie and Lisa were going at it, bad juju. Okay? And so production is like, why would you say that? And Mary basically says the person who owned the establishment killed himself and his wife on Christmas Day in front of their dog. And you heard the producer say, oh my God. And I was like, yeah, Mary. And Mary's like, yes. And I'm like, Mary, how did you know that? Mary always knows like these random facts. And I was just like, wow. But she was like, yeah, she was like, I don't know why she wanted to have this event here. But I mean, I'm not going to lie. I would probably feel the same way of being like, well, maybe we shouldn't be having it because you don't know, spirits be lingering. Okay. But she gets there second. Then we see Brittany. Then we see Angie. When Angie gets out of her Uber Black, she pulls out this storage tub with a bunch of stuff in it. And I said, Angie, you really are about to be on Stunts and Shows this entire episode. And she was. But I was just trying to figure out, who was this stunt and show for? Is it for Meredith to prove your point, or is this for Lisa? And we found out it was for Lisa. But I knew when she hid the tub, that's when I was like, yeah, you on some BS. Because when she walked into the establishment, she slid it underneath a table so nobody else like saw her with it. And then she greeted everybody once she came into a separate room. And I said, Angie, why, girl? Why? I'm pretty sure Whitney told you she just wanted to have a good time at this event. And you like, no, girl, I came here to cause chaos. Okay. And to prove my point, then we actually see Bronwyn get there, and then we see Meredith get there. I actually liked Meredith's outfit. The way that they were clowning her jean outfit, I was like, no, this is actually really cute to me. Maybe it's because I have an affinity for jean jackets or like jean tops, overalls and stuff like that, but I thought it was cute. Maybe it shouldn't have been paired all together, but like all the pieces separately, adorable. Like that top or jacket with some nice pants, like like some red or green pants would eat. Then the skirt with a nice like black top with like I'm thinking no, a brown top with some brown boots, cute. And then the boots were cute. So when Mary and Angie were making fun of her outfit, I was like, she actually looks good in my opinion. Mary said she looked like she had viruses all over her outfit, but I'm like, Mary, your outfits be questionable too. Although they are like in fashion, they are labels and things of that nature, I still thought this outfit was cute in my opinion. So then Lisa is the last one to get there. She says in her confessional she's tired of taking the high road with Angie, even though Angie has been so nasty with her. And I said, Lisa, you have not been taking the high road with that lady. You actively been playing in the mud with her, okay? But I understood Lisa's frustrations. She was like, this lady has talked about my kids. She did not talk about your kids, but she did talk about your kids' brand. She didn't talk about the kids, but she talked about the brand, which I said was a slippery slope, because you know how people are with their kids, and you bring up people's kids, like you bring up something pertaining to people's kids, it's kind of like giving the green light for anybody to talk about your kid. Just saying, okay? And she also says, like, it's completely effed up. Like, I'm done with taking the high road. And I'm like, girl, you're not taking the high road, but all right, Lisa. So Lisa gets there, and you can tell that Meredith is kind of like, because she knows she needs to have a conversation with Lisa after Angie told her in the previous episode that Lisa, during the time that Meredith and Angie weren't like getting along, that Lisa was the one pushing Angie to look up information as it pertains to relatives of Meredith to throw back in Meredith's face. So Meredith is like, me and Lisa are in a good place, but I do need to question her about what Angie has told me. And she was like, and if it is true, it's unacceptable, even if we weren't in a good place. So she was like, I'm hoping she didn't do this, because if she did do it, it is very much a big deal. So then we see everybody go outside, and Whitney gives this speech about how she wants to get back to like the old her. And she says she felt like she was always this fun and free spirit, getting tattoos, drinking, dancing, and all of that stuff. But doing all of that made Justin lose his job. No, what made Justin lose his job was y'all being half naked on TV. I think it was season 2, or was it season 1? No, I think it was season 2. And it looked like y'all was about to shoot a porno. That's what made him lose his job. You getting tattoos, swinging around on a pole in your house and getting piercings, unless his job was heavily tied to y'all's faith, I don't think that had anything to do with it. I think what it had to do was that scene. That scene was so awkward, Whitney. And Justin is stupid for going along with it. Somebody, the lights was on, but ain't nobody home. Because nobody thought to be like, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe we shouldn't. So she says, because of that, she thought she had to change a part of herself. So that is why she fully jumped into being like a CEO and doing her Wild Rose Beauty and her company. But she was like, even with doing that, she ended up losing everything. Girl, from what the people have been saying, Whitney, you lost everything because allegedly you was a part of an MLM that went under. That's what the people are saying. Okay, allegedly. So Whitney's just like, she wants to get back to her old self and she wants the group to get back to having fun and having a good time. Everybody says, her speech was beautiful. And then Whitney shares that she has a world-renowned spiritual intuitive by the name of Terrence there to read everybody's like future or what's happening or things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? I knew the moment Whitney said that man was psychic, Mary was going to be like, no, God, not today. And then when she gets to the confessional saying, we call them soothsayers, I said, she's not letting that psychic man touch her. She was like, the devil talks to them. I said, girl, the devil can talk through anybody. The devil was an angel, so he know the Bible better than anybody else. So what we talking about? Heather says she's down for it. Bronwyn is super excited. She's like, I'm all for this type of stuff. But Mary said, girl, I'm out. I'm not doing that. No ma'am. So they start doing the wine tasting. Mary doesn't want to eat this, it was like salmon in this waffle cone. She asked if it was tartare, meaning that it was raw. I do like raw smoked salmon. And I love sushi. I'm sushi down. But Mary was like, I don't want no parasites. Heather tried to tell her, girl, no, I think it's cooked. I think they smoked it. And she was like, no, girl, the lady just said it was tartare. So I'm not eating it. I don't want no critters crawling up and residing in my belly. All right. So then Angie starts talking about how she loves where they're sitting because the vineyard space was really beautiful. Like, it looked like it was a part of like a park. You see a pond and things of that nature. And so we find out that Angie is moving. So pretty much she's just like, yo, maybe I can move somewhere with like a farm and things of that nature. You hear Lisa say, no, I think I could be a farmer. Bronwyn is like, girl, I don't know about that. And then we hear Brittany. We find out that Brittany's real job is being a realtor. I said, so you really do have a real job? Like, you just don't be out here. Because sometimes I feel like Brittany is not a real person. So we end up seeing Angie and Brittany get into it. Because Brittany really feels like Angie should have reached out to her to be her realtor for her home. And I'm like, number one, Brittany, that lady don't like you. Number two, she don't know you. But more specifically, that lady don't like you. So why would you assume that she would ask you for help? Okay? So Angie ends up saying to Brittany, like, girl, like, I don't know you, Brittany, and my godson's mother is my agent. Like, that is the person that is helping me figure this stuff out. She is my agent. And Brittany is just like, girl, I'm just saying that, like, your house is listed a little high for the area that, like, you living in, You're from Provost. Like, why are you, like, why are you listening to that high? So then Brittany talks about how, like, it's been on the listing for 200 days. And she's like, that's kind of long and it's that high. So then Angie gets irritated and she's like, girl, you know nothing about my neighborhood. It's one of the most prestigious zip codes in Salt Lake City. And then Brittany is like, well, honestly, girl, where I live is like the most prestigious zip code. Then Whitney jumps in and she said, actually, South Jordan is the most prestigious zip code because it's the richest per capita. Then Lisa chimes in and she said, actually, the richest zip code is Highland. Then she said it goes Alpine, Draper, and then Park City. And so then you hear Brittany say, the price adjustment is really a really bad sign. So then Angie was like, well, why is it a bad sign, Brittany? Why is it a bad sign? Like, well, then Brittany's like, when your house has been on the market that long, like, you want to make sure that you price your house correctly so you get multiple offers. And she's not wrong. As someone, like I've told y'all this, I'm an Army brat. Like, I've sat down and listened to, like, my parents discuss with their realtor how to price the homes that we lived in. And it is true. If you price your house correctly the first time, you'll get the best offer. Like, you're just needing that one person who sees your house, they fall in love with it, but they see that the pricing is reasonable, and they'll bite and they'll purchase the house. So I get what Brittany is trying to say. So then Angie was like, girl, I'm trying to sell my place for $4.5 million. You don't know anything. You're effing clueless. So then Brittany gets offended by that. And she's like, are you kidding me? It's my profession. I know what I'm talking about. And she's like, don't insult what I do. Don't insult my house, you know? And so then while they're arguing, next thing you know, Brittany gets a text from Jared. And I'm like, girl, why? So then Whitney is like, weren't you supposed to be taking a 30-day break from Jared? And they flash back to when Whitney was trying to encourage Brittany to take a 30-day break from Jared to prove to her daughters that she would put them first before him. And so Brittany is like, well, we got back together. And Heather's like, oh my gosh, Brittany, are you serious? Are you serious? So then Brittany is just like, well, yeah, you guys, I love him. She's not real. She's not a real person. And then Mary is like, well, if you didn't do the 30 days, well, how long did you last for the break? And she said 24 hours. I said, girl, your willpower is that bad, like that low. Jared is not somebody like important or to be gushing over. And what I mean by that is, like, the Osmond name only has weight in Utah. Maybe if this was like the 70s or 60s when the Osmonds had, didn't they have like a variety show? I think they had a variety show. Because I remember being a kid watching I Love the 70s or the 60s. No, I think it was I Love the 70s. And they used to feature them on there, you know. But I'm just kind of like, I don't know anybody else who talks about the Osmonds beyond these women in Utah, you know? So I'm just like, in anybody else's community, they are not famous. So they don't hold weight in that way. So I'm just like, girl, you're doing all of this for a man who's not even talented, who has this last name. Like, it's stupid, Brittany, stupid. And he plays you out every time. So then Whitney basically tells Brittany, well, you know, Jared came over to our house to talk to Justin. And they show us a flashback of Jared basically saying he's dropped thousands upon thousands of dollars on Brittany. And it's like, when we break up, she don't want to talk to me or anything, but then when we get back together, it's like we're going on trips, we're doing all this dinner stuff. It's starting to feel like she only want to come around me when she wants to go on trips or lead this like lavish lifestyle, basically trying to paint her like a gold digger. So then Whitney tells Brittany, from his point of view, he feels like you only want to be with him for vacations and gifts. And like, Brittany's face is cracked. She's like, are you serious? Like, and then you hear Bronwyn, who, that's why when Bronwyn was trying to say Lisa, you know, was being misogynistic and slut-shaming her, y'all do it to Brittany all the time. Because Bronwyn brings up, like, oh, but you want to call me a gold digger for the past 9 months. Girl, you did. You got called a gold digger once or twice. Bronwyn, chill out. Like, oh my God. And so Lisa was like, girl, I would break up with him just off of this information alone. Like, let him go. So then Brittany is like, well, you know, he has taken me to Vegas last year and things of that nature. Heather was like, girl, that's a road trip. That's not a big deal. And I mean, that is true. Utah and, you know, Nevada are not that far apart from each other. So yeah, that is just a road trip. So then you see Brittany like trying to, like, she crying now. Mind you, I think Brittany thought this was going to be her moment, but Lisa and Angie's back and forth overtook it. Cause she was like, the fact that he's talking trash about me to your husband, like, is crazy. Like, telling my friends that he pays for my life when he doesn't. So while she's talking, this vase flies over and the flowers fall down that I guess Whitney made a bouquet out of too, or she purchased the flowers. So then you have Brittany in the confessional basically saying, like, how dare he say these things about us. Like, he's paid for, you know, food and dates and all of that stuff, but like, that's about it. Like, he doesn't pay for my lifestyle. So then Brittany was just like, how dare he say these things when, like, my relationship is negatively affecting my relationships with my daughters. Well, you're a dumbass. Because this isn't the first time Jared has shown you that he don't care about you and he will treat you like trash, but you keep going back and he keeps like showing you that I'm gonna always play in your face because you allowed me to. And so Brittany is like, this is so messed up. Oh my gosh, guys, but I love him. And then the plant falls again. And someone was like, girl, it's the second time. The wind is trying to tell you something. It is trying to tell you something. And so Whitney is like, girl, you should probably be the first person to meet Terrence and get this palm reading situation read because you need some type of clarity in your life. So Whitney dropped Brittany off with Terrence. Then we have this moment where Meredith decides to confront Lisa, and everyone thought at first she was making a toast, but she's like, no, I have a few concerns. So she was like, Lisa, we started our friendship over, and in the vein of that, we both said that if things came up about each other, we would be direct with one another. And Lisa's like, yeah, okay. Angie is smiling from ear to ear because she is ready for Lisa to be exposed and to get whacked. Okay. So then she was like, I need to know. Meredith says, I need to know, Lisa, were you going around spreading rumors about my family? And Lisa's like, no. I feel like last year, like, we really worked hard on our relationship, and like, I didn't do any of that stuff like that. So I don't know where this is coming from, but Satan looks like she does. And she looks dead at Angie, and Angie does have like this glare on her face, like she was expecting. I think this is the thing. Angie was expecting Meredith to like blow up on Lisa, whether Lisa said yes or no. That I don't think she was prepared for Lisa to be like, but I know you the one that's been running your mouth and saying stuff, Satan. Because Angie kind of looked like she had to prepare herself because, girl, it's about to go down. And guess who's playing Jason? So Angie responds to Lisa saying, girl, I'm not Satan. I work in the light, not the dark. But let's be honest, Angie, the only reason why you brought up that information towards Meredith is because you're pissed off at Lisa and it was Mad Day. If we're being all the way honest, if you truly was dealing in the light, you would have told Meredith this information off of principle. You didn't operate that way. So it's definitely giving you dealing in the dark, girl. So then Lisa and her are going back and forth, where Lisa is just like, so you're trying to ruin my relationships? Because she ends up telling Meredith, like, I worked really hard not to say anything negative about you to Angie. Do I believe that? Not really, because they weren't in a good place. Angie and Lisa seem to be really good friends. So yeah, they were probably talking trash about Meredith because they both weren't in a good place with Meredith. But Lisa is holding to the fact that she did not tell Angie to do that stuff. And the part about this is what has me looking at Angie kind of funny, is because if Lisa really did this, and I do think she did it, why has why has Angie not expound upon what she was saying? My thing about it is, if Lisa was smart enough to call you and not text you in any way, then why haven't you like explained some of your conversations? And what I mean by that, an example, I could be like, yo, back in like May, me and so had a conversation about you, and we talked about this, and this, and then she suggested I do this, and my response was this and that, like something like that. But the fact that she hasn't done that makes me feel like she's putting 20 on 10. And yes, Lisa probably suggested like, hey girl, if she not gonna leave Sean alone and she talking about your husband, maybe you need to talk about hers. That's how I feel like the conversation went, because Angie is really trying to prove Lisa to be this bad person and a bully, but yet she hasn't produced any evidence. And I'm like, what we doing? So Lisa is like, why are you making things up, Angie? And Angie says, I don't have to make anything up. We end up seeing Brittany do her tarot reading. Honestly, all the man told her is, girl, you lack communication with your daughters. Fix it if you want it to be fixed. Which is crazy because I thought Brittany's daughters were like teenagers, like 13 and 14. Come to find out they're 19 and 23. Like, girl, they're adults. Especially, and it's going to be hard for you to ever really get close to that 23-year-old because she is on, once she hit 25 and that frontal lobe developed, girl, she not playing with you. So you better figure out how you gonna make it right with the 19-year-old. And Brittany is like, oh my gosh, she's so spot on. Mind you, production is like, well, girl, you've been talking about how you don't communicate with your daughters all season, last season. And mind you, I do believe in psychics and mediums and all of that stuff, but I think there's more scammers than people who are really about their life, So we then get back to the table, and Angie is trying to tell Lisa like she realized something about her, but Lisa cuts her off and said, girl, I'm realizing you like to go behind my back and try to destroy my relationships, which is real nasty. Then she goes on to say, like, if talking about me makes you feel better about yourself, good for you. So then Angie called Lisa a bully and a liar, and then Lisa's like, no, girl, you're an effing bully and a liar. So then Angie's like, everything I I have said has always been factual. There's nothing I haven't said that hasn't been factual. So then Lisa brings up, girl, you talked about my kids. You said bad things about, and then Angie's like, no, I didn't. And Lisa's like, yes, you did. You talked about their brand. And this is why I was like, Angie, you should have never brought up the kids. Again, if Lisa was quick and smart enough, her comment to Angie should have been like, and what does Electra have? Because my kids have a brand. Even though you try to act like that brand is beneath you, what does your child have? What is her name attached to? Then that would have caused a fight, okay? But Angie opened up that door. You can't open those types of doors and then be mad with what happens afterwards, because in a roundabout way, you basically said her kids made subpar shit for you. Like, that was disrespectful, Angie, and you need to own that. So then Meredith starts yelling, saying, leave the kids out of it. Like, everyone keeps saying, like, y'all are doing this tit for tat thing. Like, stop doing that. So then Lisa's like, no, you got a good point, Meredith. And then she said, I didn't say anything about Angie, about you to Angie. And then Heather's in the confessional upset that Meredith is not mad at Lisa, saying, she's like, I don't understand how this woman who lost her mind over Jen Shah liking tweets about her is now believing this lie from Lisa. And I'm looking at Heather like, why do you want Meredith to be so angry at Lisa? That, like, when I tell you Heather is not to be trusted, Heather gives very much the, like, lonely, nerdy girl who never had friends, who, you know, was a loser, who finally figured out a way to get close to the cool kids and then is trying to enact revenge on them. Because for the past 3 seasons, you've been sucking on Lisa's ovaries, trying to be her only best friend. And now it's season 6, and all of a sudden you're being hella shady in confessionals and trying to check her and all this stuff. And to me, it only feels like Heather is moving this way because she feels like Angie can take Lisa down. Like, because the way that Angie is behaving towards Lisa is the way that Whitney has always behaved towards Lisa. But Whitney and Lisa are pretty evenly matched, and normally Lisa bests Whitney. Right now, Lisa is not doing well against Bronwyn or Angie, and I think Heather sees finally somebody's going to put her in her place, so let me jump ship. It's giving Minions, like I said, Julia. The way Julia saw that Dr. Nicole left Real Housewives of Miami, and she needed somebody to fill that, like, alpha position, I feel the same way about Heather. It feels like Heather sees a new supreme in the group rising, so she's dumping Lisa and hitching her wagon to Angie. Because I think it's absolutely crazy that you want Meredith to be mad at Lisa, but Lisa's supposed to be your best friend and you work so hard on your friendship. She a snake in the grass. And Heather has never let go of Lisa calling her the good time girl season 1, and this is her way of getting back at her. Because this is weird to me. Like, so what if Meredith is pretending to be okay with it? Why is that your problem? Why is that your problem, man? Why? So we see Brittany come back to the table. Bronwyn is happy to leave the table, okay, and go have her reading with Terrence. They meet each other. We get back to the table with the ladies arguing. And then next thing you know, Angie is like, let me tell you why I brought this to Meredith. Because when I left Lisa's event, I thought we were good. I was like, Lisa has a heart. She's my friend. And then you send somebody to come get your son's products. And Lisa was like, yeah, because you said my products don't need to be there. She was like, I told Sage, don't say nothing, just pick up the products and come back. And then Sage told me, you said, let me go get the dust off your products. So it sounds like the text message that Lisa sent was after Sage told her that Angie said the products were dusty. So Lisa sent the $600 for the store to be clean because you said her son's products were dusty. So it goes back to Bronwyn and Terrence having, the tarot reading. And he was like, something keeps coming up, like the brain keeps coming up. And so Bronwyn is now getting like uncomfortable because she was like, my mom had a surgery in December. And then the guy was like, I think she might have another procedure, like another specialist, something about her blood. Bronwyn gets very emotional. And she was like, everyone's been focused on my dad and him having Alzheimer's and like this slow, like degenerative disease, and it's overtaking our lives. But she was like, I never thought that I wouldn't have enough time with my mom. I always felt like there's another 10 rounds for us to argue and things of that nature. So she was like, I'm not ready for her to go yet. Then Terrence gonna tell her mom's her biggest supporter. I said, you lying. Because that lady do not like Bronwyn. She like and if that's love, I don't want it. I do not want it because that lady is mean towards her daughter. Okay. So Bronwyn is fighting back tears. So then we get back to the table and Angie is trying to read out the text that Lisa sent her and things of that nature. And then a part of the text she reads is like, at least Lisa's sending to Angie, at least I don't borrow money to take vacations. And then Lisa's like, oh yeah, that was voice to text. And so in the confessional, Lisa basically says that she heard that Angie took a European trip and they asked somebody to pay for it, and then she had to write a check to pay that person back. So then all of a sudden Angie starts pulling out all three of her Amex cards and like throwing them at the table, being like, here's my Black American Express, here's my Amex. Like, well, they're not like, y'all know what I mean, all her black cards, and she's just throwing them on the table. And Heather is like, girl. And then she takes off her Prada bracelet and throws it. Mary is like, put that back in your purse. What is wrong with you? And then Heather's like, girl, I ain't never seen no black card. You got Brittany picking up the credit card and putting it in her bra, like not her bra, but in her dress. And then Heather's picking it up too. And then Lisa is like, okay, Angie, you're fabulous. Angie has everything. So then Angie gets up again and she's like, why? Shut your effing mouth. And I'm like, Angie, stop standing up. Also, Angie was trying to have a moment, but this was corny. This fell flat. When Dr. Nicole did it, I will say I was being a little haterish because like I didn't really like her at that time. But, standing back from the show and being realistic, that was a move. When she pulled out that black card and just placed it on the guy's lap to be like, hey, I'll pay more for your time. That it was clean, it was seamless, it was fine. Angie throwing her cards at Lisa and then throwing her Prada, it was like, okay, girl, we get it. And it felt performative. And I feel like that's the danger that Angie is going to seep into, is when she gets so worked up and she's practiced these things, or these are things in her mind she thinks is going to eat. I'm like, girl, you're going to cross the line one day and you're not going to be able to come back. And you have to be careful when it comes to doing those props, because again, you can cross the line where you can't come back. And I was with Mary, girl, put them cards back in your purse before somebody snatches them, So she's yelling, standing up, calling Lisa a liar, telling her she gonna pull her ears so back, and I guess redo her facelift or something like that. And so everyone's like, ooh. And so then Lisa is like, oh, so now you jealous of my face? You jealous of my face? And so then Angie said, girl, you look like you've been through a wind tunnel. I said, she got you right there, Lisa. She got you right there. So Lisa is like, girl, do you want me to stand up? So let me stand up. So then Lisa starts standing up. And then she was like, you're not even taller than me. Then she yells out, shorty. I said, Lisa, what? So then they sit back down. So then Angie's like, I'm going to sit back down. You should have been sitting down in the first place, Angie. So they're going back and forth. You hear Brittany say, girl, this is too much. This is too much. So then Angie is like, my credit cards and everything are in my effing business name. And so Lisa's like, here we go again. She always loves to go back to like my court cases and all of that stuff. So then Whitney is trying to calm Angie down, and she's like, girl, this is stupid. She's trying to ding on the glass. They're not listening to her. Bronwyn comes and sits back down. Nobody can really tell how emotional she is because they're so caught up in the argument. And Lisa's like, she's always talking poorly about me. And she was like, she always attacks people who always go so hard for her. So then Lisa's like, you're a user. And then we see Heather get up and she goes and talks to the guy. He basically tells her, your love life will be better. Like, I see a rebirth in your future. Okay. So then they're yelling back and forth. And Lisa's like, you start things with me, but you can't finish them. And in this one instance for this season, Lisa is right, because Angie has been starting with Lisa since episode 1 of this season. You compared that lady to Jen Shaw. You weren't honest when she confronts you at Amy's party. Then when you get to Lisa's luncheon, her failed luncheon, you're leading the charge against her. But then also you disparage her children's products. It's like, you want an issue. Then you run to Meredith. Like, Angie's the one that's starting stuff with Lisa. Like, I get it. People don't like Lisa. They don't like her reactions to things. She's obnoxious. She's an asshole. She's narcissistic, whatever. But in this moment, Angie is starting things. So, like, why are we acting like Lisa's acting crazy out the blue? Because she's not, And so Whitney is trying to get them to calm down. Whitney pretty much says, girl, this is never going to end because they both always want to get the last word in. And honestly, they argue like siblings. Angie and Lisa argue like siblings. Like, the way me and my sister, especially when we were younger, used to argue, like I had to have the last word and she had to have the last word as well. So they're going back and forth. Bronwyn is trying her best not to break down at the table. Meredith is asking her if she's okay. And then Meredith's like, can y'all shut up for a minute? Bronwyn is upset. And so Bronwyn talks about like her parents being sick and being worried about them. And Bronwyn also says, like, honestly, y'all need to stop being so nasty to each other. Like, stop going low. Don't talk about people's kids. Don't take it too far. And then Lisa is like, but she's always going low with me. And so then Angie was like, but I could go lower. And Lisa's like, I can go lower. So everyone's trying to console Bronwyn. Whitney is like, can y'all stop? So then she tries to pull Angie away from the table so she can have a conversation with Angie to calm her down. And, you know, it's a mess. So it's a mess. Brittany consoling Bronwyn. They're still arguing. Lisa and Angie are arguing at the table. Angie's calling Lisa a bitch, and like she won't stop. So that's prompting Lisa not to stop. You got Whitney being like, Lisa, like, you're like, do you want to stay at this table? One of y'all has to stop talking. And then Angie is saying Lisa's evil, and then Lisa's like, girl, you project evil, and they're just like, they are not stopping. So then Angie calls Lisa a see you next Tuesday, and everyone's like, whoa, Angie? Like, whoa. And so then Brittany is trying to get Lisa to calm down, and she's like, but she don't never stop, so I'm not gonna stop if she not gonna stop. So then they start arguing about like clothing, where Lisa, this read didn't make any sense, where she was like, honey, I don't shop where you shop. And so Angie says, girl, you don't shop at Nordstrom's, but I know your boyfriend does. And I'm like, yeah, Lisa, Nordstrom's is a high-end store, so what are you talking about? So then Lisa's like, what about Soup Man, bitch? And mind you, in my Spicy Corner Central, we find out that it was Suit Man, which Lisa explains it better when she is in episode 6. But somebody on Reddit found out that one of the co-hosts of Call Your Daddy, I think her name is like Brianna, like Franklin, or Brittany Franklin, I don't know. The girl basically said that Angie used to mess around with her boyfriend, who she used to call when referring to on the show Suit Man. So, you know, so Lisa's screaming at her, and Angie's like, I don't even know who Soup Man is. So then everybody's like, girl, who is Soup Man? Who is Superman? And so then producers end up asking Lisa, who's Soup Man? And Lisa said, girl, I don't know. That's a question for Terrence to answer. So Whitney is trying to have a conversation with Angie to calm her down, and she pulls her away from the table. And then Lisa comes and said, girl, stop talking about me. So then Whitney ends up asking Lisa, do you really think she's using somebody else's card? And she's like, yeah, I do believe she went on to a trip on Greece and somebody else paid for it. That's what it is. So then Mary gets up and tries to see if the situation can be rectified. And then Whitney is like, you guys are basically doing tit for tat, because Whitney said, how is this any different, Lisa, than what she did to you at the luncheon? And so Lisa was like, but I didn't start with her. She started with me. So Lisa is like, girl, if she can start it, then I can finish it. So they're going back and forth, and they show the flashback to when Angie was like, did you have a man pay for your Range Rover? So now it's Lisa's turn to get, you know, her reading. She sits down with Terrence. It seems like there's something going on with her marriage with John. Basically, they're not on the same path, and they lost, like, their communication isn't good right now. She gets very emotional, and she talks about how she feels like John is her best friend, but they're not communicating good. And so they show flashbacks of Lisa and John having issues with their communication recently. And I told y'all, something seems off about Lisa, and I do think it has everything to do with what's going on between her and John. I go back to the way that she looked when they were on their way to Amy's party. Lisa looked like nervous as hell. And normally her and John will be talking and things of that nature, but that is not the case with them in that car. So there definitely seems to be stuff going on with them. And so she's trying to hold everything together. She's in the confessional talking about, like, it just seems like we're not on the same path right now. She just feels really lonely in her marriage. So then Angie is sitting there at the table talking about, like, you know, I'm not going to let her get away with saying whatever she wants to us. And Whitney is trying to tell Angie, but you're constantly going back and forth with her and like, digging up things. And then Angie's like, I'm not digging. And Whitney's like, Angie, I'm trying to be on your side, girl. Like, I'm trying. And she's like, oh. And so then Heather points out, and so does Mary, like, girl, you were okay with the digging when you were friends with Lisa. And now all of a sudden that y'all not cool anymore, it's a problem. And then Angie was like, but I never dug up anything. But the truth, like they said, but if you were okay with it happening when y'all were friends, then why are you saying you're not okay with it when you feel as though it's being turned on you or when you're just mad at her? And Mary was like, well, you need to accept responsibility for supporting her when y'all were friends during that time. And Angie doesn't want to listen to Mary. And Mary was like, you always want everybody to listen to you, Angie. You need to listen to me. And I said, oh, okay, Angie. So then Lisa comes back and she sits down and they're asking her about like what she said, like what was said in her reading. Lisa doesn't really share. She gives very vague answers or she straight up lies. Whitney is in the confessional talking about, I've wasted too many brain cells trying to understand why Lisa keeps it surface level with y'all. Y'all don't fucking like her. Why would she tell y'all information about her life when y'all don't like her? For like since season 1, y'all have been saying that lady has been cheating on her husband. Y'all say she's a mean, evil person. Why would she share personal information with y'all? Y'all are weird. Like that's a weird assessment, Brittany. So then we see Angie. We find out Angie is starting a sunglass line, which makes sense. People know Angie for her shade, so that's smart. The guy also says that like a horse might injure itself. We find out that Elektra does like horse competitions, and so there's that. So then Angie sits back down and they start talking, and Lisa was like, do you feel bad for the things that you say about me? And then Angie's like, Lisa, I already apologized to you. And Lisa was like, no, you didn't. So then she was like, well, did you apologize to Bronwyn for saying she sucked gout dick? And Lisa's like, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. So then Bronwyn was like, can we not go back? Like, do we have to go low? Like, why do y'all have to go low? She was like, honestly, I like both of y'all. She was like, she said, I love both of y'all, but y'all both have said some really crazy and messed up things to each other, and y'all need to own that. So then they start yelling at the table again. Like, Lisa's like, enough, Angie. And so then Mary has to give Lisa a pep talk about being the change she wants to see. We see Meredith do her reading about letting go of snake friends and people that aren't trustworthy. While that's happening, you see Angie walk into the room and grab her Tupperware, so it feels as though the reading is about Angie. And then Angie puts the tub on the table, and it's like a Vita tequila bottle with Angie's name on it, books that Lisa has donated to Angie, and a toy horse that Lisa has given Elektra. And I said, see, Angie, this is where it's like, this was stupid. It was stupid because the products you told that lady weren't good enough to be in your store, so she came and got them. You actually returning gifts shows how petty you are, and you're no better than Lisa, even though you think you better than her. So Bronwyn is the one that points out that like Angie didn't even open the bottle of Vita tequila, but she said, to be honest, neither have I opened my bottle either with my name on it. And so they're going back and forth. They start talking about the Kerastase brand partner deal and all of that stuff. And it's stupid. The argument is stupid. The last person we see get their reading is Whitney. Whitney talks about that she's resentful against Justin for not being all in with Wild Rose Beauty. And she was like, I needed his approval. First of all, girl, he's a grown man. Like, unless he's a gay man that's into makeup, I don't think he would be all in. Also, why does he have to be all in your business? If he's supporting you, then that's all that matters. But it seems like Whitney is trying to find somebody to blame her like feelings of failure on, because I'm just like, what? Why are you being resentful to Justin? What did Justin do? Because you're not laying it out there for me, girl. So Lisa, after seeing the tub, is like, you know what, Angie, you don't get it, and I'm done with this. And so she leaves. And while Terrence is doing the tarot reading, he talks about people pretty much like a friendship that like you don't want to have in your life that breeds chaos. So it seems as though they're talking about Lisa when she walks in there. Then Angie gets so worked up talking about, I'm not going to let her bully me. And it's like, no one's bullying you, Angie. You're just mad that everyone at the table is like chastising you because your behavior. Like, no one is bullying you, girl. And while Angie is slamming her hands on the table, like, enough, the toy horse that she brought back, the leg breaks on it. So Angie was like, I guess that's the horse that they were referring to. So then everyone is trying to calm Angie down because she's like, I'm not going to let her disparage me in my business. I'm not going to let her do it. And Mary is like, I can't be around somebody who can't listen to reason. Like, Angie is in like a blind rage. So that Angie is telling Mary, all of y'all have went back to her. You went back to her. You went back to her. And you went back to her too, Mary, after all the bad things she's done. And Mary's like, you know what? I went back to her. And she's like, yes, you did. So then Mary was like, you know what? I'm done with you, girl. Bye. And so she storms off. And then Meredith chases after Mary. It's like, Mary, where you going? And like, that's low key where the episode ends. Because, well, no, the episode ends with Brittany getting a call from Jared and then Bronwyn hanging up on him. But yeah, Angie was doing too much. Like, both Angie and Lisa were like on even playing fields, but I just thought it was mad lame to bring back gifts and like things that your friend has given you because you that mad because she picked up product that you said shouldn't be in your store. It should be in Walmart. And it was actually product that was beneath your store. Corny, Angie. All right, y'all. So episode 6, it opens up and we see this FaceTime call happening between Angie and Heather. Pretty much Heather is trying to check up on Angie after the way she behaved last episode. She's like, girl, are you good? And have you spoken to Mary? Angie basically says she's embarrassed and very remorseful about the way that she acted at Whitney's winery event. She ends up saying that she did reach out to Mary and Mary's supposed to come over to her house so they can have a sit-down conversation. She also stresses how she cares more about mending her relationship with Mary than she does with Lisa, and it's kind of crazy how she used to be just as close with Lisa like she is with Mary, but she just doesn't care about their relationship anymore. She also goes on to say that she feels like she wasted a lot of time being Lisa's friend, and she hates how Lisa can get her to a certain point. She says that she feels guilty about her behavior, but it also bothers her that Lisa never seems remorseful about the things that she does to people in this group. She says it also bothers her that she's never seen Lisa cry about anybody in this group, and she feels as though Lisa only cares about what people think about her and her appearance. So while they're sitting there, Heather basically says, yes, we need to find a way to get Lisa to acknowledge her wrongdoing in this group and come to some type of understanding where it's not just one-sided beef. It is a two-way street. You're also playing in the mud. Then Angie ends up saying that she felt really protective of everyone at the table, and that's why she behaved the way she did. I call Cap, and y'all know I like Angie, but Angie, you don't care or feel protective about anybody else other than at that group other than yourself and Mary, because if you did, you would treat Meredith differently and you would definitely treat Brittany differently. So you don't care about everyone at the table. To me, Angie is trying to make a play of being like the new Regina George or one of the alphas of the group, and I do think she's going to be successful because all of them are following her lead if you ask me. So Heather says we are just going to have to be there for Lisa and help her acknowledge her wrongdoing. Then Heather does something that I can't stand what these women do, but honestly what people do in general. Heather's like, in my heart of hearts, and I love Lisa, she's my friend. I believe Lisa can change, but I just never seen her be remorseful, Just never seen it. And my thing about it is, Heather, just say you don't think the lady is sorry about her behavior and you hope that she can change, but you don't think it's going to happen. That whole, I love her. I care about her. I truly, that putting that honey over shit stuff, I don't like it. I don't like it. Just speak plainly to me. You don't like Lisa. You don't believe that she can change. You're happy that Angie is at her neck right now and you want to switch up on her. That's just what it is, Heather. So we find out that Heather announced at the party that the women are going to this super yacht. They're going to charter a super yacht. The captain, Jason, who's a part of Below Deck, is going to be the one who is, steering the boat, and they're going to be with his staff and crew. They're going to some island in the Caribbean, so everyone's super excited. And pretty much Heather says if we can't get along on the super yacht, then we're a bunch of sad bitches. Me and y'all are about to be, because you definitely don't look like y'all going to have a good time. So the next thing we have is of Bronwyn and Todd going to this ice cream shop, and she's ordering sundaes for both of them. And then when they sit down, Bronwyn is talking about I only got this drink because I think she got like a sundae or like a root beer float. I don't know. But she said, I only got this sundae and drink because maraschino cherries come with it. And she was like, I love those cherries. Like, I always save it for the end because that's my favorite part. Mind you, I think those cherries are disgusting. When I was a kid, I used to love drinking Shirley Temples. It made me feel like an adult. I don't know. I think I thought it was alcohol at the time, but I'm gonna be completely honest. I used to tell my parents and stress to them, when you order my drink, tell them people I don't want them nasty cherries in them. I think those things are disgusting. They taste fake. They taste artificial. I don't like the and the way that people gush. I can't. They taste gross to me. So Bronwyn stresses that that's her favorite part. So then her and Todd are having this conversation, and she's telling him, about what happened at Whitney's event. But also before they get there, she asks him, how did New York go? And he's like, it was fine. It was good. Then while they're sitting there, that man grabs her cherry and eats it. And the way that Bronwyn was like, she was so stuck. Like she was like she could not believe he did that. And she was like, I just told you 30 seconds ago, don't, like, that's my favorite part. And I can't stand when you eat my cherries. And then when they did it, like when they rewinded, the way he stared her dead in her eyes as he ate it, like, who gonna check me, boo? Like, very much like, you're not gonna do nothing. And she didn't do anything. She laughed and was like, oh my God, you're such an asshole. And I'm like, girl, Robin, that's why they be playing on your head. That's why they be playing, because there is no way you just told that man, I do not like when you eat my cherries, and that's my favorite part. And then he goes and eats it and stares you dead in your eyes and eats that cherry. When I tell you, like, two things would have happened. Two things. One, I would have knocked all of that off the table, Teresa Giudice style, the way she did when they were in Tennessee and she was beefing with Margaret. Just knocked everything off the table. Or I would have gotten up, went and got my sundae, told them to add a couple of more cherries on there, paid for it, told them, can you box this up for me? Grabbed the keys and sat in the car. Low key, I probably would have left you at the ice cream shop and went to the house, and you could have Ubered or Lyft back home. Or I would have called an Uber or Lyft to come get me, because that was OG, like, disrespectful. Very disrespectful, because the girl just told you, don't eat my cherries. Rude. Oh, grumpy ass. So she laughs it off, which I don't know why she did. So then she started talking about how her and Lisa were actually like really cool with each other the other day, that all the things that were happening back and forth with the girls, like she didn't get into the fights. She was like, Angie made valid points about Lisa, where it's like Lisa digs up this stuff on people, and then she has a habit of twisting those things and telling people like, I'll ing you and threaten you with that information. And then so then Brahma talks about how Angie says she's not going to be bullied by Lisa, and she was just like, I felt that. And she realizes that Todd really doesn't care what she's saying. She was like, you really don't care about the details. He was like, no, I don't. Then she was like, can I get a high five that I did good? It was giving very much daughter father conversation. I ain't like it. And Todd was like, what do you need a high five for? Congratulations. Thank you for not getting into the mess. So then Bronwyn says in her confessional, it's clear as day that Todd does not really care about these group of women. Like, he's kind of over it. And he's also like, if you're going to be a part of the circus, why are you surprised when clownery happens, So they then go on with the conversation, and pretty much Bronwyn starts talking about how she forgave Lisa, and she's like, she's now questioning, did she move on too quickly from her issues with Lisa after seeing the way that Angie went back and forth with her. And I'm like, Bronwyn, if you needed to see somebody else beef with the person that you accepted their apology, then girl, that you're lame. I'm sorry. That's so lame that you saw Angie and Lisa go at it to that degree, and now you're questioning whether or not you were being like weak or scary by accepting Lisa's apology. Girl, it is giving like you don't really have a mind of your own, because girl, if you said you wanted to move forward, y'all move forward. Why now are you all of a sudden like, I don't know, maybe I forgave her too quickly? Todd's not really listening to her. Like, he's just kind of like, Okay, girl, because Todd don't really like, he does not like Lisa. He hates Lisa with a passion, okay? So he's like, I don't get why you trying to be cool with her anyway. But Bron was in her confessional saying that, like, me being cool with Lisa has nothing to do with, like, Todd's opinion. So basically, the conversation keeps going on, and Bronwyn starts talking about the psychic and how the psychic brought up her mom. And Todd is like, girl, it's a 50-50 chance. Like, he guessed. Like, he's being very, like, dismissive, which sets Bronwyn off because she gets really emotional where she says, like, I'm trying to have a conversation with you. Like, I'm not saying, like, I totally believe what he said, but I'm telling you something that, like, was important to me. He told me I need to move on and let go of the things that was happening with my mom. And here you are not, like, listening to me. And she was like, you know how much I hate not feeling understood. And then in the confessional, she's like, Todd, like, he's supposed to be the person that knows me. He knows me the best. She goes on to say that, I know he's not very emotional. Like, he knows I'm emotional. And she was like, I hate that it has to get to this point where I have such a hysterical reaction or emotional reaction for him to see, like, I'm emotional and try to be soft with me. So then Todd, looking at her, says, my bad. I'm sorry. And I'm like, girl, Bronwyn, are you setting up a divorce? I feel like you might be, because I wouldn't be dealing with his old ass. If I was, I wouldn't. I would not. Next is Lisa and John. Girl, Lisa, girl, you better get it together for you get a, like, divorce papers here soon. Because three things: either John is already, like, on his way of being checked out of their marriage. Two, he cheating with somebody younger than you. Or three, he already done filed them papers, and after this season, he just gonna present them to you. Okay, because this whole scene, if I was him, I would be over it too. So basically, Lisa is packing for the trip, and John is like, where are y'all going? She says some island near the Galapagos. Girl, production said that's not true. That's not true. So then she ends up telling John about the psychic, and she was like, he brought up saying that there are possible communication issues with us, and she was like, what he said actually resonated with me. So then John was about to say something. Lisa immediately cuts him off, and then John pivots to being like, so how did that make you feel? So clearly you can tell that John feels like his feelings don't matter in this relationship, and Lisa's feelings are a priority, pretty much. And so as they're sitting there, she's like, she just feels like a lot has happened between them. She was just like, there's not one thing that's the catalyst for why their marriage is where it's at now, other than, like, they've blurred the lines of, like, business, family, and marriage. And Lisa's like, she tells John, I just feel like we're on different pages. She also says that she feels like oftentimes she's taken for granted in this relationship, and she feels, like, exhausted. And she says there's been days that she just sits in the car and cries on the phone to her dad about how tough she feels it has been being together. So as the conversation continues on, John is like, what do you think is the cause of it? And then Lisa says, well, I know you said if I could listen to you more, it would show you that I care. But I also feel like it's not just a me thing too. I think also there's things with you as well. So then Lisa and John are still, like, kind of going back and forth. It gets awkward. John's like, so you think it's a me thing or is it a you thing? And then Lisa was like, no, I think it's just a thing. So in the confessional, Lisa says, I tell John, treat me like glass or you'll shatter me if you don't, because he could literally do that. And so Lisa says, I just think it's frustrating because we've been together for so long, but, like, nothing is ever perfect. Like, nobody's relationship is perfect. And then John says, well, no, you're perfect. It's just me that has the issues. And I said, ooh, girl. I said, Lisa, you might want to get that together. You got to get that together, or that man gonna leave you. That man is going to leave you. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about how they think that Lisa might have, like, a borderline personality disorder. I saw, like, a couple of tweets where people were saying that they have lived with people like Lisa, but they also understand having that disorder is a chronic illness, and the person could also be depressed at the same time. I don't know. I just think the way that Lisa has been behaving this season, her emotions have been extremely heightened compared to the way that she's acted in previous seasons. And when she started crying immediately when she was talking to Heather, I don't think that was just like deflection. I do think that like Lisa is overwhelmed with whatever's going on because she's been like really emotional this season. And I don't think it's just the John thing. Maybe it is the John thing in the court cases. It just seems like she got a lot going on and is having a hard time managing her emotions. But she need to get that together or John will probably leave her. And I do believe Lisa when she says like John could shatter her because I do think Lisa loves that man. I do. In her own way, I think she loves her some John Barlow. So the next thing we have is of Mary and Angie having a conversation. Honestly, I'm starting to not like Angie and Mary's relationship a little bit because it seems like Angie is walking on eggshells when it comes to her relationship with Mary. And I feel like Mary is putting too much responsibility on Angie to care for her and her feelings when it's like, girl, you're a grown adult. Like, you have to regulate your emotions too. Now, do I think that Mary had valid points? Yeah, to a certain extent, because there is a bit of Angie that is performative that doesn't seem like the one we had seasons 4 and 5. It does feel like Angie has fixated on taking Lisa down. This whole narrative of making Lisa like the bully is weird to me when y'all all have done some pretty messed up things to each other. So it is kind of like, why are we constantly using this analogy of like, I'm taking down the bully? Okay, girl, y'all are not in 3rd grade. Y'all are women in your 50s. What are we doing? So they're sitting there. Mary got an attitude the moment she come up in that house. And I would have told Mary, don't do this. This is my house. Come correct. So while they're sitting there, Angie is trying to apologize to Mary and basically says, like, you know, I take full responsibility for my actions. Mary basically says that Angie was so angry that like she started to come at her. She was like, you know, we're a sisterhood. Like, if I can't calm you down, then what are we doing this for? And she was like, you got so mad. And she was like, I don't like being around people like that, Angie. I don't. And so Mary tells Angie, you're supposed to be my sister and you're not my sister. And then Angie was like, but I am. And she was like, no, find another one. And so Angie was just like, you know, Mary, I don't want to feel like I'm walking on eggshells around you. And then Mary was just like, girl, you've gotten mean here lately. Because in her confessional, she's like, Angie used to be very patient, kind, and sweet. Now it just feels like she's trying to throw temper tantrums. And I will say the way that she behaved at that luncheon when she started slamming her hands on the table, I will not. It did give a temper tantrum. All right. And she was just like, you know, I don't like how she's starting to attack people who she's supposed to be kind with. And then she starts to say that Angie has gotten a little bit mean. And she's like, you know, you made fun of my fart. Now, I thought this was stupid, but I kind of got what Mary was saying. It did kind of feel like Angie was being a little mean-spirited, just a little bit, because Mary farts. They show us a flashback. It's Mary, Bronwyn, and Angie, and it looks like they were at Bronwyn's house. Mary farts, and then they kept bringing it up and kept laughing about it, but you could tell that Mary did not want them to keep bringing it up, and that does get annoying where now you're starting to feel embarrassed because yes, I did that, but why are we harping on it? Can we move on? So in that regard, I kind of got what Mary was saying, but I think that's very small of a point, you know? So pretty much Mary says in her confessional that like she has a guard up, and she even tells Angie, I have a guard up that because people have dogged me out. She was like, I really care about you, Angie. Like, you mean a lot to me, and I don't think I could go on with life without you. And then in the confessional, she just talks about how like I don't really make a lot of friends. And she was like, when people start disrespecting me to a level that like they can't come back from, I can unmemorize them from like existence. Like I will cut you off in a heartbeat. So Mary just tells Angie like, girl, I love you deep down, but I need you to start acting better. They hug each other, and you could tell that both Angie and Mary were happy to be cool with one another once more. So the next scene we have is Lisa and Heather meeting up at this boutique. When I tell you Heather gaslit Lisa, I'm not even about to go back and forth with this. Pretty much, Heather basically tells Lisa that, girl, you and Angie were on the same, like, y'all both were doing too much, which they were. But the way that Heather is not taking ownership, that, girl, you riled this situation up. You were the one that was at the campsite listening to them ladies dog Lisa out. And it's like Lisa can't respond to that. And then on top of that, you ran back to her and lied on Meredith saying that she didn't help because you wanted to be Lisa's only friend. So now all of a sudden Lisa is doing too much and she's a liability as a friend. But you took no like problems in running this narrative to her, getting her riled up. And now that she's doing it to a level that you don't approve of, it's a problem. Girl, Heather is not to be trusted. I don't care what nobody says. But in this moment, like I mentioned, I think Lisa's going through something because she immediately got defensive and started crying and saying, you know what, maybe I just don't need to go. She was like, I didn't come here for all of this. And then she was just like, you know, if you're going to be this way, it's cool, Heather, whatever. She also brings up how Heather and a lot of the women have been coming at her since season 1. And they bring up what happened between them season 1, where Lisa supposedly was going around BYU calling Heather the good time girl or something like that. And Heather was like, I would have got kicked out of school. So then everyone was making mention of Lisa with all the money. I talked about that in the spicy corner. Lisa said she was giving, paying Heather, but also giving out a tip. I don't know. I was just like, girl, that's a lot of 100s. But yeah, I just feel like Heather's not a trustworthy person. Like, I still feel like it's weird that y'all are giving this much energy to Lisa when, again, Jen Shah, y'all didn't give her this much fever. Y'all didn't. So we then get this scene of Brittany meeting up with her daughter, Olivia. Pretty much something happened to Brittany in that second marriage. We find out that up until Olivia was 12, like, Brittany was the best mom. Then she got married to her second husband. And somehow in Brittany's mind, she felt like if she could be a great wife, she could be a great mother. Girl, that's not how that worked. And the daughters ended up going to live with their father. And Brittany felt like she failed miserably as a mom. Then Olivia basically says she feels as though she was the problem. And that's why Brittany began to behave the way that she behaved. Brittany's tears felt fake. I was like, this whole situation is weird because, and what it boils down to for me is I feel like Brittany didn't want them kids. And I think it's hard for her to say that, hey, I thought I wanted to be a mom. And then I realized after getting that divorce, I don't want to do it no more. But now y'all are here and I got to figure out what to do. I think that's why it's important to let people make their own decisions. But also it's dangerous when people get indoctrinated into religions that stress, like, you know, how it's your biblical right to be a wife and a mother, because there is definitely a disconnect between Brittany and Olivia. And this conversation I felt like should have been taking place with a therapist, because I got what Olivia was saying when she was like, well, why did you behave this way? Because I think about if I was a mother and I'm like, I would never do that. And I'm like, yeah, Brittany, why did you behave that way? And all Brittany could say is like, I don't know. And it's like, that's because that's when you need a therapist to help someone guide you to the point. Because I think what Brittany is struggling with, like I said, is like, I don't think she wanted to be a mom, or if she really messed up happened in that divorce. Because for her to, like, the little girl say she flipped a switch, something happened. Something happened that Brittany's not talking about. And this should have been a conversation with a therapist, if you ask me. So then we move on from Olivia and Brittany, and the next thing we have is with Meredith and Heather. And when I tell you, I don't know what's going on with Meredith, who put a curse on her, but she chipped her tooth trying to eat a throat lozenge, and then she stubbed her toe to the point where it was purple. I said, girl, it's a lot going on with you, Meredith. So as they're walking, Heather again is trying to push Meredith to be mad at Lisa. She keeps stressing how she doesn't understand why Meredith be pissed off at Lisa. She says that she tried to have a conversation with Lisa, but Lisa wasn't listening to her at the boutique and she couldn't get through to her. But she also talks about how she thought Lisa was such this fearless person, but now she doesn't think that way. You never thought Lisa was this fearless person because you never liked her, Heather. Like, the way Heather is moving, and it's weird to me that everyone's like, yes, finally Heather has woken up. No, Heather's been plotting on that lady. And it's weird because being friends with someone like Heather could end I was about to say something. But it's just like, I don't get how y'all don't see this. And maybe it's because I watch in documentaries about people who scam and fraud people, because the way that Heather is moving, it's like, girl, you built Lisa up in your mind, and now you're trying to effectively tear her down, and it's weird. It is weird, and I don't care what nobody says. So then basically Heather ends up asking Meredith, well, how do you believe what Lisa said? Because you know she did it. You know she dug up information on you. And Meredith basically says that me and Lisa have worked on our relationship. Lisa apologized to me profusely, and I'm going to believe her. She goes on to say as well that she feels as though, how am I just supposed to outright believe what Angie has said? And I'm like, yeah, Meredith and Angie have not been cool for the past 2 seasons. Why would she automatically believe what she said? And then Meredith posed a good question. If I am supposed to believe everything that Meredith says, so is she telling the truth about you and Jen Shaw Barbie scissor kicking it? And they flash back to that. So I see you, Heather. I see you. And because when Heather said, where is it, you guys? It's in my notes somewhere. She said something about Angie, you guys, when she was like, okay, here's like, she says, it makes me doubt Lisa. That's why I believe Angie. And like I've been saying, now Angie is a person that Heather thinks that is going to be able to take Lisa down. And that's why all of a sudden she's believing Angie. Because you ain't never believed Angie before. And when you met Angie, like, you were treating that lady like y'all didn't even go to school together. Like, y'all weren't cool in high school together. But now all of a sudden you believe Angie. Okay, Heather. So the last scenes we have is of the ladies filling out their questionnaire that they give to the staff on the yachts. So you get to say like what kind of food you want, what kind of bed sheets, doing all the things you want. It's basically like a wish list. And when they're having this conversation, we see this conversation taking place between Mary, Angie, and Whitney. And they're at Whitney's house, and Angie is filling out Mary's questionnaire. And all of a sudden, Angie brings up like, oh, did you hear about Bronwyn? And Whitney is like, oh, yes. And then she's like, Mary, did you hear about Bronwyn? And Mary's like, no, I don't know what y'all are talking about. Girl, Bronwyn, I saw an article with Bronwyn's name with felony past fraud charges. And Mary's like, what? What? And I said, it is crazy how Bronwyn's friends on this show are the ones bringing this to the show, but they mad at Lisa. I don't think they like Bronwyn. I do not think I think they see Bronwyn as a means to an end with helping them take Lisa down, because if they were really her friend, they would be more focused, or like there would be no need to bring this up. In my opinion, their focus would be like Lisa. It's the same thing that happened with Katie, Gretchen, and Jen. Like, y'all really didn't like sit down and have this team meeting, because I'm like, how is she supposed to be in y'all clique, but y'all bringing up her dirty laundry? So then we see this scene between Todd and Bronwyn, and basically they are implicating Lisa. Todd hates Lisa. He basically says, I wouldn't piss on Lisa if her brain was on fire. She lied on me. She lied on Gwen. She lied on you. Like, if you're going to go on this trip with the women, it's on you. Don't tell me nothing about it. Like, if you get into a fight with Lisa because a tiger doesn't change his stripes, that's on you, Bronwyn. And basically he told her, don't take your ass on that boat. And Bronwyn is basically saying, it kind of bothers me that I feel like me and Lisa made amends, but she was out here doing all this stuff, putting out my dirty laundry. And it's like, why do you automatically assume that it's Lisa? And I talked about this in the spicy corner. Girl, they've been digging up on you since you got up on this show. That ain't got nothing to do with Lisa. You shouldn't have got on this show with a criminal past. Okay? But Bronwyn listens to Todd because she's not on the trip for next episode. So there's that. So yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. As always, remember to be bravely authentic. Definitely hop down in them comments below. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.